Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're embarking on a really extraordinary journey into Axiom Mission 4, AX4,
Yeah, Ax-4. It's a private astronaut mission, but honestly, it feels like a pretty significant leap in how we're all engaging with.
It really does. More than just another flight, right? It
Yeah,
seems like a signal maybe of a paradigm shift.
exactly. And for our deep dive today, we've pulled together quite a bit. We've got official releases from Axiom Space, from NASA,
Yeah.
looked at news articles, space.com, India Today, even sifted through an Axiom investment guide and some YouTube stuff,
Right, so a broad picture.
trying to get that full picture, yeah.
So our mission for you today is to really unpack what makes AX4 so historic and, look at the sheer amount of science they're doing.
Mm-hmm. And what it all means for, like, the future of commercial space, the whole space economy picture.
We're aiming to give you that shortcut, get you informed on this, maybe with a few genuinely surprising bits along the way.
Should be interesting.
So let's jump in. Where does this story really start? Let's go back to launch day. Even though it was, the middle of the night?
Yeah, 2:31 a.m. Eastern, June 25th. But definitely captured attention.
Yeah.
You had the SpaceX Dragon. The crew named it Grace.
Grace, nice name.
Yeah. Lifting off on that Falcon 9 rocket
Okay.
from the historic Launch Complex 39A down to Kennedy Space Center.
39A. Always special. And the prep leading up to that. It's not just show up and go, is it?
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah.
You're talking 4 weeks of intense quarantine for the crew. Health first, always.
Right.
They had to adjust their sleep schedules, synchronize with the ISS crew way ahead of time.
Oh.
Then the suiting up, that happens at the Falcon support building. And, the ride out to the pad in the Teslas.
Right, that's become such an image, hasn't it? The Tesla's driving astronauts. Very 21st century.
It really is. It blends that high-tech feel with its very meticulous human preparation. It's quite something.
And the launch sequence itself, the power involved.
It's staggering. Think about it. T-minus 45 minutes, just 45 minutes before liftoff.
Yeah.
They start the fast fueling. Roughly 1 million pounds of fuel liquid oxygen and that RP-1 kerosene.
1 million pounds. Wow.
And that's after the engine chill process, getting those Merlins ready for ignition.
Incredible precision. And then the flight events.
Yeah, you see the main engine cut off Mako when the first stage engine shut down,
Okay.
followed by stage separation. Then the second stage engine kicks in, pushing Dragon towards orbit.
But the first stage, that's the magic nowadays.
It really is.
Yeah.
Instead of just dropping away, the Falcon 9 first stage does its whole routine. The boost back burn, the deceleration burn,
Yeah.
and then that picture-perfect landing burn.
Yeah.
Sticks the landing right back on landing zone 1 at the Cape.
Which fundamentally changes things, that reusability.
Completely. It's why we can see these missions happening more often. It brings the cost down, makes space more accessible. It's not just cool tech, it's economics.
So after all that drama, Dragon Grace heads off to the ISS. How long did that take?
About 28 and a half hours, roughly. Docking was expected around 7:00 a.m. Eastern on June 26th.
Autonomous docking, right? To the Harmony module.
Yep. Autonomously to the space-facing port on Harmony. Smooth operation.
So the spacecraft is on its way, but the real heart of this, you could argue, is the crew inside.
Absolutely. A fantastic, truly international team. 4 people.
Led by Commander Peggy Whitson, U.S. astronaut, legend.
Absolute legend. Then you have pilot Shukanshu Shukla, representing India.
Okay.
Mission specialist Sławos Uznaski-Wijniewski, representing both ESA and Poland.
Poland, right.
And mission specialist Tibor Kapu from Hungary.
Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting, I think. The international aspect.
Hugely interesting.
Yeah.
Because for 3 of those nations, India, Poland, and Hungary, this is massive.
How so?
This is their first government-backed flight to the International Space Station. It's a return to human spaceflight for each of them after, more than 40 years.
40 years. That's incredible. It really signals a shift.
It really does. Space isn't just for the traditional superpowers anymore. Look at Shubhanshu Shukla, only the second Indian citizen in space.
Since Rakesh Sharma back in '84.
Exactly. And Shukla is also an astronaut designate for India's own human spaceflight program, Gaganyaan. That's a huge national project.
So this is experience building for their own program, too.
Precisely. Then you've got Sławos Uznaski-Wijniewski, second Pole in space after Mirosław Hermaszewski in 1978.
And his background? Wasn't he involved with CERN?
Yeah. He was an engineer in charge of the Large Hadron Collider. Imagine that career path particle physics on Earth, now orbiting it.
That's quite the resume. And Tibor Kapu from Hungary.
Second Hungarian astronaut, following Bertalan Farkas in 1980. He came through their HUNAR program selection, one of just 4 chosen for nearly 250 candidates.
So highly selective, representing national ambitions.
Very much so.
And tying it all together, Commander Peggy Whitson. We said legend, but maybe we should elaborate.
We really should. Former NASA chief astronaut, now director of human spaceflight at Axiom, first female commander of the ISS.
Okay.
Over 675 days in space before this, 60 hours of spacewalking across 10 EVAs.
10 space.
And this is her second Axiom command. She led AX-2, plus a 2025 Astronaut Hall of Fame inductee.
So this mission pushes her total time closer to 700 days.
Just about, yeah. Extends her own record as the most experienced U.S. astronaut. Incredible leadership for this crew.
And they had a zero-G indicator, right? Always a fun detail.
They did. A little plush baby swan toy. They named it Joy.
Joy the Swan.
Nice. It adds that human touch, doesn't it? Amidst all the high tech.
So, bottom line on the crew, this really signifies a powerful shift, doesn't it? Broader international involvement.
Absolutely undeniable. It's a new phase, more collaborative, more global.
Okay, so we have this historic international crew on its way. But what are they doing up there? Let's talk science, because this mission is, well, it's packed.
Oh, it's incredibly packed. We're talking around 60 distinct scientific studies and activities.
60. Wow.
And representing researchers from 31 different countries. This is by far the most research Axiom has ever flown on one mission.
31 countries. That really drives home the global significance.
It really does.
Yeah.
We'll spend about 2 weeks on the station focusing on this microgravity research, but also educational outreach, commercial stuff too.
And the research areas are broad.
Very broad. Human research, obviously how space affects the body, Earth observation, life sciences, biological sciences, even material science.
And there's a collaborative angle too, right, between the nations involved.
Definitely. A big emphasis on portfolios led by the U.S., India, Poland with ESA, and Hungary. And NASA's working directly with ISRO, the Indian Space Agency, on several joint investigations.
Joint NASA-ISRO work on the ISS via a private mission. That's complexly cool.
It shows how interconnected it's all becoming.
So let's dive into some specifics. What's Axiom itself researching?
Axiom's got several interesting projects. One is looking at supporting astronauts who have insulin-dependent diabetes in space. That's crucial for longer missions, opening space up to more people.
Yeah, important accessibility work.
They're also studying microgravity's effect on the brain, cognitive risks, collecting lots of physiological and psychological data, how space affects joints, blood flow.
Kind of the fundamentals of keeping humans healthy up there.
Exactly. And they're developing infrastructure for processing data from wearable devices, making health monitoring easier.
Okay, and there was something about cancer research. That sounds really significant.
It is. UC San Diego and the Sanford Stem Cell Institute are flying cancer cells. Again, this is their 4th time with Axiom.
4th time. What kind of cells?
Specifically, triple-negative breast cancer cells. They're testing a newly approved drug, one that's just about to enter clinical trials on Earth.
So using microgravity to potentially accelerate drug development.
That's the idea. Studying how cancer grows differently in space could give us crucial insights for treatments back here. It's a really vital area.
Absolutely. What about the European Polish?
ESA and Poland are looking into things like bone loss monitoring, especially during re-entry stress. Also, using neurofeedback for stress reduction in astronauts.
Neurofeedback.
Yeah. And investigating changes in the gut microbiome, that's a hot topic, and using electrical stimulation for muscles. Again, all focused on astronaut health during long flights.
And there was something about a brain-computer interface. That sounds very sci-fi.
It does, but it's real. They're developing one using brain imaging tech.
Yeah.
Think about the potential applications on Earth.
Like for neurological rehab.
Exactly. Helping patients control prosthetics, maybe even communicate just using brain signals. That tech gets refined in space. Benefits us here.
That's incredible potential. What about the Hungarian UNAR program research?
They have some fascinating stuff too. Studying fruit flies, believe it or not.
Fruit flies? Why?
To see how they combat DNA damage from radiation. Fruit flies are a good model organism, and understanding those repair mechanisms helps us think about protecting human astronauts.
Oh, okay, makes.
They're also looking at plant germination, growing microgreens and space steps towards future space agriculture, feeding crews on long journeys.
Food and space, always critical.
And one really cool, kind of unique UNOR experiment. They're spinning a sphere of water in microgravity.
Spinning water? Why?
To mimic large-scale atmospheric dynamics, like you see on planet. It gives insights into fluid dynamics around big celestial bodies, think Saturn's atmosphere, maybe exoplanets.
Wow, so it's planetary science in miniature.
Pretty much. It's fundamental physics with potentially big implications. It's definitely not just for fun, it's important science.
And we shouldn't forget the educational side, the STEM engagement.
Definitely not. Things like the ISS ham radio link-ups, they connect students and teachers directly with the crew on orbit.
Inspiring the next generation.
Exactly, sparking that interest in space, science, tech. It's a crucial part of these missions.
So incredible science, historic crew. But this mission also shines a spotlight on the business of space, specifically Axiom Space itself.
Absolutely. Axiom, founded back in 2016 by space industry veterans, they are right at the forefront of this commercial space push.
And their big vision is their own space station.
Right. That's the ultimate goal. Building the world's first commercial space station, a successor to the ISS.
How do they make money doing this? What's the business model?
It's multifaceted. These private astronaut missions are a key part. Seats go for around $55 million typically.
$5 million.
Though interestingly, the sources say India paid $70 million for Shukla's seat, but that apparently included a really comprehensive year-long training program meeting NASA standards.
So it's an investment by the nation, not just a tourist flight.
Exactly. It's buying access to the ISS, training, and research capability.
What else besides astronaut flight?
Strategic partnerships with national space agencies, like we've seen. Orbital manufacturing, that's a huge potential area. Tapping into, like, the $30 trillion manufacturing and pharma industries eventually.
Manufacturing into space?
And research initiatives, plus even developing space-based data centers, diversified streams.
Okay, back to the price tag, though. $55 million, $70 million. Why so high? People might compare it to, say, suborbital flights.
Yeah, it's a fair question. But Axiom emphasizes this is a full-on enterprise. It's not a quick up and down.
Right.
It includes that super intensive training, 700 to 1,000 hours, covering safety, ISS systems, health, launch ops, everything.
A year's worth of prep.
And the focus is squarely on advancing science and national goals. It's a completely different proposition from tourism. And honestly, in the context of national space budgets, it's described as a drop in the bucket compared to the billions needed to run a full national program. It provides focused access and research acceleration.
Okay, that makes sense. So Axiom Station, how does that actually happen?
It starts soon, actually. The first piece, the Payload Power Thermal Module, PPTM, is scheduled to launch to the ISS in 2026.
PPTM, what does that do?
It provides power, cooling, and houses science racks. It's the foundational element that attaches to the ISS first.
And then they add more pieces.
That's the plan. Subsequent launches will add habitat modules, an airlock, more research labs. It grows while attached to the ISS.
And
eventually, the whole Axiom segment detaches and becomes a free-flying, independent commercial station before the ISS is retired.
A crucial transition plan for LEO.
Absolutely. Axiom also has exclusive rights from NASA to attach that first module by 2026. And importantly, they have that massive $1.26 billion NASA contract to develop the next-gen spacesuits.
The Axiom U suits, right, for Artemis missions too.
Exactly. Those suits are critical not just for Axiom Station, but for NASA's Moon and Mars plans. It ties Axiom very closely to NASA's future.
What does the broader market look like? Is Axiom the only player?
Oh, no. It's getting competitive. The whole commercial space industry is projected to boom maybe $1.8 trillion by 2035, up from around $630 billion in 2023.
Huge growth.
And Axiom's already booked over $2.2 billion in contracts, so there's definitely market traction.
Who are the competitors in the stations?
You've got Blue Origin with their orbital reef concept, Voyager Space with Starlab. Vast Space is aiming to launch Haven 1, maybe as early as 2026.
Haven 1, okay.
And then companies like Gravitics that are building modules themselves. It's a developing ecosystem.
Has it all been smooth sailing for Axiom financially? Building a space station sounds expensive.
It is incredibly expensive. Reports mention financial challenges, which isn't surprising given the rapid expansion and high costs. It's sort of typical for ambitious ventures like this.
Growing pains.
Pretty much. But NASA seems likely to remain supportive given how critical Axiom is, especially with the spacesuits and the whole commercial LEO transition plan. Their success is kind of tied to NASA's needs now.
Right. They're deeply intertwined.
Yeah.
So wrapping this all up, this deep dive into AX4, it really does seem to highlight space becoming, I don't know, a more shared frontier.
I think that's a great way to put it. Moving beyond just the big superpowers, bringing in emerging space nations, private companies.
Yeah, fostering this global collaboration, pushing science forward in maybe unprecedented ways.
Definitely feels like a more pluralistic future for space is unfolding. It's innovation and collaboration kind of feeding each other, which should ultimately benefit us back on Earth.
So as we look at all this, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? What are the next frontiers that commercial space will unlock? Not just for science, but maybe for our everyday lives here. What do you think about when you see a mission like ACIDS 4 and the future it hints at?